From brutal massacre sites where it's rumored the tortured souls of those slaughtered in violence still roam, to historic state buildings whose many halls are wandered by the dead after dark. Are you ready to brave our picks for some of the most haunted places in Utah? Number 5. Lake Powell. Lake Powell, which is located on the Colorado River, right on the border of Utah and Arizona, is an artificial reservoir boasting the title of being the second largest reservoir in the country that acts as a major vacation destination and accommodates over 2 million annual visitors. Historically, construction of the Glen Canyon Dam was started on October 1st of 1956, when the initial demolition blast was set off by President Dwight D. Eisenhower himself from his desk at the Oval Office. By September 13th of 1963, when the dam was completed, waters from the Colorado would back up, forming the start of Lake Powell, which would continue to fill over the following 16 years until it reached its 3,700-foot level on June 22nd of 1980. While the lake's level is known to fluctuate heavily, on July 14th of 1983, waters would reach an all-time high of 3,708.34 feet when the Colorado River underwent one of its heaviest floods. In the present, Lake Powell remains a popular tourist destination, offering ample opportunities in boating, camping, fishing, water skiing, jet skiing, swimming, hiking, and more. Predating settlement and creation of the lake for millennia, lands now containing Powell were frequented by tribes native to the region, and long-standing local legend tells the lake actually sits atop an ancient burial grounds or some form of significant religious site, and those frequenting its expanse have reported extreme cold spots felt through the heat of summer, the feeling of hands grasping at dangling appendages from the water's depths, and the sounds of disembodied flutes, drums, and chanting or whispers. Off the lake's northern shores lie the half-submerged ghost town of Height, which derives its name from settler Cass Height and that was established circa 1880. Some legends tell these ruins are haunted by the souls of residents who weren't ready to leave their homes behind, and those crossing the Height Bridge have reported hearing ghostly voices through their car radios or sighting otherworldly lights spied from the ruins. Number 4. The Salt Lake City and County Building. The Salt Lake City and County Building, which is located off of South State Street in Salt Lake City, Utah, is a historic landmark and seat of government placed on Washington Square, which is the site of the original 1847 Mormon Pioneers Camp and derives its name from none other than George Washington. Historically, this impressive structure was initially constructed from 1891 to 1894 under Freemasons for the purpose of housing offices for the city and county, and to replace the Salt Lake City Council Hall and Salt Lake City County Courthouse, which were built previously through the 1860s. This new construct would serve as the capital of Utah from its 1896 statehood until our present state capital was completed in 1915, and from 1973 to 1989, the site was renovated and restored, and would welcome the installation of base isolation to better protect the expanse in the event of an earthquake. Until the 1980s, Salt Lake County offices would take up space within the City and County Building, after which a new complex was constructed at 2100 South and State Streets. The Salt Lake City and County Building remains in use into the present, housing the mayor's offices, city council chambers, and more, and is open to the public, offering self-guided touring options and downloadable guide resources. While it's unknown who or what exactly haunts this dated campus, over the years, both staff and visitors have reported a slew of supernatural happenings across the property, including the hearing of disembodied voices, laughter, moaning, or footsteps from empty spaces, of keystrokes on an old typewriter heard emanating from thin air, the feelings of being watched, followed, or even of being brushed up against by a presence unseen, and encounters with a range of full-bodied apparitions. One popular local fable tells that during the building's construction, 2 children fell to their deaths, leaving their small spirits at unrest, and every so often, their tiny footfalls and little giggles are heard from just out of sight, while room 406 is said to hold the manifestation of a woman believed to be their mother, who's often spied peering around the corner from the office. Lastly, some tell of run-ins on the 3rd floor with a figure matching the description of former Salt Lake Mayor George Montgomery Scott, others with the form of an unidentified male presence in judge's attire. And into recent times, activity on site has become so intense it's resulted in a bulk of employees refusing to work alone after dark. Number 3. Devereaux Mansion. Devereaux Mansion, or the Staines-Jennings Mansion, which is located off of South Temple in Salt Lake City, is a historic abode turned popular events venue that's recognized as the first mansion constructed in the whole of the Salt Lake Valley. Historically, this abode was designed and constructed in 1857 under William Powell, 401 William Staines, and for years it would act as a social center to the community around it. In 1865, the estate was purchased by Joseph Angel Young, the eldest son of Brigham Young, who in turn would in 1867 sell the site to local entrepreneur William Jennings, who would issue a slew of additions to the home, all overseen once again by William Powell. From 1882 to 1885, Jennings would serve as mayor of Salt Lake City, and a year later, in 1886, would pass on. Following the death of Jennings, the mansion would change hands a number of times, and over the years would host a variety of businesses and operations, including an alcohol treatment facility and office space. Through the 1970s, the prestigious residence would be acquired by the state. In 1978, a slew of restorations were started, and through the 1980s, it would reopen its doors as a reception center for the Chart House restaurant before its 2005 purchase under the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Devereaux Mansion is maintained under the church to this day, and while closed to the public, it is utilized in various group meetings and events, and will answer calls regarding potential visits. Eerily, over the years, those frequenting Devereaux have reported a range of supernatural phenomena on site, including extreme cold spots felt in hot weather, instances of doors opening and closing on their own, and the feelings of being watched or of being followed by a presence or presences unseen. The full-bodied apparition of a young woman in mid-19th century clothing has been observed wandering mansion grounds and has been spied peering from upstairs windows. And even when not visible, many have reported hearing her singing, chattering, or humming from out of sight. Additionally, this presence that some believe to be the spirit of one of Jennings' daughters has also been known to play small tricks on the living, as well as bomb otherwise picture-perfect photo opportunities, and has even thrown the occasional poltergeist-infused tantrum. A second entity commonly encountered across the expanse of Devereaux is that of a spectral old woman, who some believe once worked as a housekeeper on site. This spirit has been known to get aggressive at times, some say in order to protect the beloved residents, and has even thrown objects dangerously at those who get too near her. Number 2. Mountain Meadows. Mountain Meadows, which is located off of Utah State Route 18 in Washington County, Utah, is a historic site that acted to pack trains and drovers as a place of rest and grazing along the old Spanish Trail, and later as a pit stop to Mormons, 49ers, mail couriers, travelers, and teamsters on the Mormon Road, which stretched from Utah to California. Historically, in 1856, one Jacob Hamblin and family would establish a ranch overlooking Mountain Meadows, and before long, other settlers would arrive to the area, forming a community over time which would eventually be recognized as Fort Hamblin, and later, more simply, as just Hamblin. The following year, in 1857, one Baker Fancher party would form from various groups in northwestern Arkansas. They would establish a wagon train in order to travel to Southern California, and along their journey, they would pull in additional families and individuals from other states looking to migrate west. By September of the same year, this wagon train would make it to Mountain Meadows and would set up camp to rest their cattle. Disturbingly, however, rumors of the party opposing Mormon forces would spread, and the local Mormon militia leader would launch an attack on the defenseless group. From the 7th to 11th of September, 120 members of said train were slaughtered, with only 17 children under 7 years in age being spared. Initially, a simple cairn was fashioned in monument to those lost at the massacre just 2 years following, under Major Carleton in the U.S. Army. However, sadly, this monument was discovered desecrated and was replaced entirely in 1864. More recently, in 2011, the site was designated a National Historic Landmark following joint efforts by the Latter-day Saints Church and by descendants of those killed in what's now referred to as the Mountain Meadows Massacre. It remains open into the present and is preserved under the Utah State Division of Parks and Rec alongside the LDS. Chillingly, following the slaughter, the Mormon militia involved claimed that it was actually Paiute who'd killed the defenseless settlers, and preceding their crimes, the party would bury resulting bodies hastily in shallow graves, which were quickly uncovered by coyotes and other wild animals. Within only days, bodies and parts of were left scattered over a 2-mile stretch to rot in the sun, until nearby settlers collected what they could find and reburied the bulk into 2 mass graves. Since this horrific event, and not surprisingly, many maintain the whole of the area is haunted by the restless spirits of those lost and then dishonored through this brutal and uncalled for act, and those frequenting the expanse have reported extreme cold spots felt on hot days, the constant feelings of being watched or followed by a presence unseen, and disembodied children's cries, blood-curdling shrieks and screams, and men shouting orders heard on the winds. Several have described observing a spectral woman who walks across the meadow, appearing as if she's searching for something, some say her lost children, while others have recounted encountering the small spirits of school-aged kids, running and playing through the fields while emitting eerie laughter. Strange-colored spook lights have been spied darting through surrounding sagebrush and junipers, and the unidentified form of a woman has been spied hunched over and has been heard sobbing from a distance. A final, commonly encountered entity at Mountain Meadows is said to be that of an older man in clothing from the 1800s, who some theorize might just be the spirit of John D. Lee, who was executed by firing squad as a result of the massacre. Rather unjustly, Lee was the only man punished for the atrocious acts committed here, and what's worse is historians believe he was simply a scapegoat to divert attention from other names involved in the planning and killing of so many innocent lives. Number 1. Southern Utah University. Southern Utah University, which is located off of West University Boulevard out of Cedar City, Utah, is a public university recognized for its comprehensive course load and 17 athletic teams, which compete collectively as the Thunderbirds in Division I of the NCAA. Historically, this college's roots were planted in 1897, when Cedar City selected lands to act as the branch normal school, which was actually the first teaching training school in the whole of southern Utah. In September of the same year, the school would open its doors, and the following year, in 1898, the institution would transfer its operations to our current campus site, with Old Main just strokes away from being finished. Following the turn of the century, 1901 would welcome construction of the school's science building, now the Braithwaite Building, which would double as classroom space. In 1969, the institution's name was changed to Southern Utah State College, and from 1982 to 1997, under the direction of school president Gerald R. Sherratt, SUU would undergo its largest period of expansion and growth, during which time Sherratt would oversee the establishment of the business building in 1982, the Centrum in 1985, and in 1991, the site would be elevated to university status. In July of 2012, the Council of Public Liberal Arts Colleges would recognize SUU as one of only 27 universities in the U.S. designated specifically as a public liberal arts and sciences university, and in July of 2022, the school would join the Western Athletic Conference. Southern Utah University remains open into the present, offering more than 140 undergraduate degrees and 19 graduate programs while accommodating more than 10,000 students. Over its lengthy existence, and like many other universities we've covered, SUU has been surrounded in a wealth of urban legends and campus ghost stories that have been perpetuated by generations of alumni, and those frequenting its bounds have reported disembodied voices and footsteps heard from vacant spaces, spook lights both observed and captured in photography, and extreme cold spots felt through the heat of summer. Chillingly, before the new campus was open for business in 1897, one Virginia Loomis was murdered on grounds now holding Old Main. While her boyfriend Stephen Farr was suspected as her killer, he would flee and get off scot-free, and would actually return to the college later to work as a custodian. One night, however, as unbelievable as it sounds, Stephen was cleaning near the furnace when the door slammed shut on his arm, holding him in place until he burned to death. To this day, it's believed the wrathful ghost of Virginia was at fault, and into recent times, reports of encounters with her brooding apparition still manifest near Old Main. Additionally, some tell the third floor of Old Main is an epicenter for the otherworldly, and there, many have told of powerful gusts of wind that pick up within sealed rooms, of instances of blinds opening and closing erratically, of glowing light anomalies, and of electrical malfunctions and abnormal battery death rates. A final Old Main fable tells of a young student through the 1930s that would practice her favorite tune, Deep Purple, on a piano which ironically was also located on Old Main's third floor. Sadly, one night her peers entered the room to find this student dead right at the ivories, as if she'd passed away mid-song. From this day forward, many frequenting Old Main have described hearing mellow piano music emanating from the area. Some say, as the soul of this poor pianist who was taken too early practices for a performance that will never transpire. Also reported across SUU grounds and confined to no area in particular are instances of doors opening and closing on their own, shadowy figures spied stalking lone walkers about, the constant feelings of being watched or of being followed, and encounters with a range of full-bodied apparitions. Another popular campus tale tells of one Dr. John Lawrence Seymour, whose spirit supposedly resides in his old office in the Special Collections segment of the library. In life, Seymour was a renowned American composer and playwright who spent around 16 years as a librarian at the university. It's said that when he passed on in 1986, his soul desired to stay at the place he so loved, and near the Special Collections area, students have reported pens and other objects that are out of reach scooting inexplicably into their grips when they need them, a calming presence about at all times, and run-ins with the spectral Seymour himself, who's always donning a warm smile. Lastly, the tunnel connecting the old outdoor Adams Memorial Theater to its dressing rooms is rumored to harbor the ghost of either a man and his child, or possibly multiple children, that some theorize may have been actors from long ago, and whose manifestations have a habit of whistling and reciting lines into the ears of those passing through. Taking its fascinating and extensive history into account, and coupling it with such a formidable range of associated local legends and purported encounters with the unknown, we felt Southern Utah University was a perfect choice as this list's most haunted place in Utah. Thanks for joining us for this list of some of the most haunted places in Utah. If you enjoyed our histories and ghost stories, subscribe to our channel, like this upload, and share us with anyone you feel could use a good scare. We'll catch you next time.